Nathan Brooks stared at his computer screen, trying to focus on debugging code while his mind wandered to the stack of unpaid bills on his kitchen counter. Remote software development paid well, but not well enough to cover the mortgage on his inherited Victorian house. The solution had seemed simple enough: rent out the spare bedroom. He just hadn't expected his new tenant to be quite so distinctive. Athena Vale arrived on a Tuesday evening, carrying only a metallic briefcase that hummed faintly when she set it down. Her platinum blonde hair seemed to catch non-existent light, and her violet eyes held an intensity that made Nathan want to look away. Everything about her was just slightly off, like a photograph that had been subtly altered. "Your dwelling is acceptable," she declared, scanning the foyer with an analytical gaze. "The structural integrity appears sound, despite its archaic construction methods." Nathan blinked. "Thanks. Most people just say they like the crown molding." "Yes, the decorative wood patterns. Quite inefficient." She nodded seriously. "I will take the room." That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, Nathan's life had become an exercise in questioning reality. Athena kept odd hours, sometimes standing motionless by windows at 3 a.m., studying the stars with an expression that bordered on homesickness. She treated everyday objects with either excessive fascination or complete bafflement. The microwave terrified her, but she spent hours examining the ancient grandfather clock in the hallway, muttering about primitive temporal measurement devices. The incident with the toaster really should have clued him in sooner. He'd walked into the kitchen one morning to find it completely disassembled, its parts arranged in a perfect spiral on the counter. Athena stood over it, making notes on a tablet that definitely wasn't any brand Nathan recognized. "I've improved its efficiency by 320%, she announced without looking up. "Though I had to bypass several safety protocols. It may now occasionally generate small temporal distortions, but the toast will be perfect." Nathan had slowly backed out of the kitchen, decided he wasn't awake enough for this conversation, and gone out for breakfast instead. When he returned, the toaster was reassembled and worked better than ever, though he could have sworn his morning coffee now arrived in his mug several seconds before he poured it. It wasn't just the weird tech experiments. Athena's attempts at casual conversation were like watching someone try to speak a language they'd only learned from a badly translated textbook. During their first dinner together, she'd insisted on observing typical human sustenance rituals. She'd asked him if he'd ever experienced spontaneous molecular dissolution. "You mean like heartburn?" he'd ventured. "No, though that is also a fascinating biological defect. I mean the sensation of your atoms briefly losing cohesion due to passing through a quantum irregularity. It's quite common in the VEC." She stopped abruptly, stuffing a large forkful of spaghetti into her mouth. Nathan had chalked it up to social anxiety, or maybe she was just one of those eccentric tech geniuses. Silicon Valley was full of them, though admittedly most weren't quite so interested in quantum physics. Or quite so beautiful, a thought he tried very hard to suppress. Everything might have continued in this strange but manageable way if not for the night Nathan caught her in the backyard, hovering 3 feet off the ground while surrounded by dancing lights that definitely weren't fireflies. He stood frozen in the doorway, coffee mug slipping from nerveless fingers to shatter on the porch steps. Athena dropped instantly to the ground, the lights vanishing like candles in a windstorm. For a long moment, they stared at each other in the darkness. Finally, Nathan found his voice. "So, not from Silicon Valley, then?" A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Not exactly. Though I did visit once. Fascinating place. Very primitive quantum computing." "Right." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, trying to process this new reality. "Want to come inside and tell me the real reason you're here? Because I'm pretty sure it's not just for the affordable rent and charming crown molding." Athena's expression grew serious. "That would be unwise. The less you know about me, the safer you'll be." "Yeah, that's not ominous at all." Nathan crossed his arms. Look, you're living in my house. If there's danger involved, I think I deserve to know what kind." She studied him for a long moment, her violet eyes seeming to peer straight into his soul. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. But remember, you asked for this knowledge. Whatever happens next, remember that." As they walked back into the house, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to become considerably more complicated. He just didn't realize quite how complicated until the first bounty hunter's ship broke through the atmosphere 2 days later. The first sign that something was wrong came when every electronic device in a 3-block radius went haywire. Nathan's smart home system started speaking in Sanskrit, his neighbor's Tesla performed a perfect parallel park on their roof, and the local radio station began broadcasting what sounded suspiciously like intergalactic whale songs. Just a minor temporal disruption, Athena assured him, frantically adjusting something on her humming briefcase. "The quantum shielding must have slipped when I was recalibrating." "Right, because that happens all the time." Nathan watched as his coffee maker started dispensing espresso in reverse. "Want to tell me what's really going on? Because I'm pretty sure my homeowner's insurance doesn't cover temporal disruptions." Athena's fingers stilled on her device. Outside, a black van crawled past the house for the 3rd time that hour. Her violet eyes tracked its movement with predatory focus. "They're getting closer," she murmured, more to herself than Nathan. "The resonance patterns must have given away my location." "Who's they? The men in black? Space FBI?" Nathan tried to joke, but his voice cracked slightly. "Worse." Athena's face was grim. "Bounty hunters. They're drawn to the energy signature of my research. I thought Earth's primitive technology would mask it, but..." She gestured at the chaos around them. Nathan sank into a chair, watching his phone cycle through 17 different operating systems. "So you're what, a criminal?" "A scientist," she corrected sharply. "One who made a discovery that could save billions of lives across thousands of worlds. Or end them, in the wrong hands." She opened her briefcase, revealing a swirling mass of light and energy that seemed to fold in on itself in impossible ways. Nathan's eyes watered trying to look at it directly. "I found a way to rejuvenate dying stars," Athena explained, her voice softening with passion. "To restore them to their prime, extending their life by millennia. Do you understand what that means? Civilizations that would have been forced to abandon their homes could survive. Entire species saved from extinction. That sounds good?" Nathan ventured. "So why are people trying to hunt you down?" Athena's laugh was bitter. "Because the same process that can restore a star can also cause it to collapse instantly. Imagine it, the perfect weapon. No messy invasions, no prolonged wars. Just turn off a system's sun, and every planet goes dark. Billions dead in minutes." Nathan felt sick. "And someone wants to use it that way." "Several someones. The Drachnid Empire offered me enough wealth to buy a solar system. The Quantum Consortium promised me unlimited research funding. When I refused..." She shrugged. "Hence the bounty hunters." A high-pitched whine filled the air, making Nathan's teeth ache. Outside, the black van had stopped moving. The tinted window rolled down slightly, revealing a face that was almost human, except for the metallic sheen of the skin and eyes that glowed like burning coals. "We need to leave," Athena said, snapping her briefcase shut. "Now." "Leave? I can't just dash." Nathan's protest was cut short by the sound of his front door being reduced to atoms. Heavy footsteps echoed through the house, accompanied by the distinct whir of energy weapons powering up. Athena grabbed his hand. Her skin was electric to the touch, sending tingles up his arm. "Do you trust me?" Nathan looked at her, really looked at her. Past the almost human disguise to something ancient and powerful and terrifyingly beautiful. He thought about his comfortable, predictable life with its debugging sessions and mortgage payments. Then he thought about dying stars and billions of lives hanging in the balance. Not even slightly, he said with a grin. But I'm in anyway. Athena's answering smile was like a supernova. Close your eyes, she whispered, pulling him close. The first time through a quantum tunnel can be disorienting. The last thing Nathan saw before reality dissolved around them was the bounty hunter's face contorting in rage as its prey slipped away in a flash of impossible light. His orderly world had just exploded into chaos, and somehow, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. The quantum tunnel deposited them in Nathan's garage, of all places, as his molecules realigned themselves into what he hoped was the right order. He could hear the bounty hunters tearing apart his house room by room. "Why here?" he whispered, trying not to think about how his atoms had just been scrambled like cosmic eggs. "Because," Athena said, pulling a tarp off something in the corner, "this is where I hid my ship." Nathan stared at what should have been impossible. Where his collection of dusty cardboard boxes had been, there now floated a sleek vessel about the size of a small SUV. It seemed to bend light around itself, its pearlescent surface shifting colors like an oil slick in sunlight. "That's been in my garage this whole time," he whispered, reaching out to touch it before yanking his hand back. "Wait, is it safe to dash?" "The quantum camouflage won't hurt you," Athena said, placing her palm against the hull. The ship hummed in response, a section seamlessly dissolving to reveal an entrance. "Though I wouldn't recommend touching the temporal stabilizers. Being scattered across 3 centuries isn't pleasant." A crash from inside the house made them both jump. The bounty hunters were getting closer. "We need to move," Athena said, climbing into the ship. "Are you coming?" Nathan glanced back at his house, his normal, predictable life, then at the impossible woman offering him an escape into the extraordinary. "Will I get scattered across centuries if I sit in the wrong spot?" "Only if you're very unlucky." She smiled, extending her hand. "I'll protect you." He took it, letting her pull him into a cockpit that seemed much larger inside than the ship's exterior suggested. The walls were lined with flowing symbols that shifted and rearranged themselves continuously. A central console pulsed with soft light, responding to Athena's touch as she slid into the pilot's seat. "You might want to hold on to something," she advised, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Earth's atmospheric exit protocols are a bit aggressive." Before Nathan could ask what that meant, the garage door exploded inward. 2 figures stepped through the debris, one tall and metallic, like a chrome statue given life, the other shorter but somehow more menacing, with skin that seemed to absorb light. Athena Vale, the taller one's voice resonated with artificial harmonics. "By authority of the Drachnid Empire, you are ordered to surrender your research and submit to immediate termination." "How about no?" Athena muttered, slamming her palm onto a glowing panel. The ship hummed to life, lifting off the ground as energy crackled around it. The bounty hunters raised their weapons, sleek rifles that definitely weren't standard Earth technology. Energy bolts sizzled through the air where the ship had been a moment before, but Athena was faster. The vessel shot straight up, passing through the garage roof as if it were made of smoke. Nathan's stomach lurched as they accelerated, the ground falling away at impossible speed. "Did we just pass through my roof?" "Phase shifting," Athena explained, focused on the controls. "Don't worry, it'll reconstitute once we're clear. Though you might want to hire a contractor for that garage door." They broke through the clouds, the sky darkening to deep purple. Nathan watched in awe as the curvature of Earth became visible, stars brightening in the vast expanse of space. "This is incredible," he breathed. "Terrifying and probably fatal for my career, but incredible." Athena's expression softened for a moment, before alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "They're following us," she growled, banking hard to avoid a burst of energy that lit up the cockpit. "Hold on." The next few minutes were a blur of evasive maneuvers that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Athena piloted the ship like it was an extension of herself, weaving through weapons fire while muttering what Nathan assumed were alien curse words. "We can't keep this up," she said finally, glancing at a display showing their pursuers gaining ground. "The ship's still damaged from my last escape. We need somewhere to hide, make repairs." "What about the moon?" Nathan suggested. "Dark side, like in the movies?" Athena gave him an approving look. "Not bad thinking, but too obvious. I have a better idea." She entered a series of commands, and the stars around them began to blur. "There's an abandoned research station in the asteroid belt. We can lose them in the debris field." The ship shuddered as another energy blast grazed them. Warning lights flashed across the console. "Quantum shielding at 40%, an automated voice announced. Hull breach imminent." "They're not trying to capture us anymore," Athena said grimly. "They're trying to destroy the research before anyone else can get it." She reached into her pocket, pulling out a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. "Here, take this." "What is it?" Nathan asked, accepting the warm crystal. "Everything. My research, my discoveries, the key to saving or destroying billions of lives." She met his eyes. "If anything happens to me, get it to the Galactic Science Council. They'll know what to do." "Nothing's going to happen to you," Nathan said firmly, surprising himself with how much he meant it. "We're in this together now." A small smile touched her lips. "Together. That's not a concept I'm very familiar with. In my work, trust usually leads to betrayal." "Yeah, well, I'm pretty new to the whole fugitive from alien bounty hunters thing myself," Nathan pointed out. "But I'm a quick learner." Their moment was interrupted by a massive impact that sent them spinning through space. The bounty hunters had managed to score a direct hit. "Multiple system failures detected," the ship's AI reported calmly. "Calculating probability of survival, 17.3%. I don't suppose your quantum physics breakthrough included a way to improve those odds?" Nathan asked, gripping his seat as Athena fought to stabilize their flight path. "Actually," she said, a dangerous glint in her violet eyes, "it did. But you're really not going to like it." She reached for a panel that pulsed with ominous red light. "Remember how I said my discovery could affect stars? Well, this ship's power core works on similar principles. If I reverse the polarity..." "Wait," Nathan's eyes widened. "Are you saying you're going to blow up your ship's mini-sun?" "Not blow up. Collapse. The gravitational distortion should be enough to..." She trailed off as several displays began flashing urgent warnings. "No time to explain. Do you trust me?" Nathan looked at the crystal in his hand, then at the determined expression on Athena's face. In the few weeks he'd known her, she'd turned his world upside down, challenged everything he thought he knew about reality, and put his life in more danger than he'd ever imagined possible. "Absolutely," he said without hesitation. Athena's smile was fierce. "Then hold on to that crystal, close your eyes, and whatever happens next, don't let go of my hand." She intertwined her fingers with his, her skin humming with energy, and slammed her other palm onto the red panel. The universe seemed to hold its breath for a moment. Then everything went nova. Consciousness returned to Nathan in fragments. First came sensation, cold metal against his back, the lingering tingle of quantum energy across his skin, the warm pressure of Athena's hand still clasped in his. Then sound, the quiet hum of machinery, distant beeping of unfamiliar instruments, and Athena's voice speaking softly in a language that made his ears buzz. He opened his eyes to find himself lying on the floor of what appeared to be an abandoned space station. Curved windows revealed a breathtaking view of the asteroid belt, chunks of rock and ice drifting lazily through the void. Athena knelt beside him, her platinum hair floating in the low gravity, concern evident in her violet eyes. "Did we just..." Nathan sat up slowly, checking that all his parts were still in the right places. Did you just collapse a star to escape? Technically, it was only a quantum-scale stellar core, Athena corrected, helping him to his feet. But yes. The gravitational distortion created a temporary wormhole that brought us here. The bounty hunters would have been pulled in a different direction. She paused. Assuming they survived. Nathan looked around the station. Ancient equipment lined the walls, covered in a fine layer of space dust. The air felt stale, recycled countless times. Where exactly is here? Research Station Epsilon. Abandoned decades ago after a funding dispute. Athena moved to a control panel, her fingers dancing across the interface. Ancient systems sputtered to life, lights flickering on throughout the station. It should be safe for now. No one's used these coordinates since the station was decommissioned. And your ship? Gone. Her voice was tight. Along with most of my equipment. All I have left is what's in my emergency kit and... She nodded to his hand, where he still clutched the crystal. That. Nathan held up the crystal, watching light play through its facets. So this tiny thing is what everyone's trying to kill us for. That tiny thing contains the culmination of my life's work. A way to manipulate stellar energy at its most fundamental level. Athena's eyes grew distant. I was so focused on the potential benefits, I never stopped to consider how it could be weaponized. Not until the Drachnid Empire showed interest. Tell me about them, Nathan said, pocketing the crystal carefully. Know your enemy and all that. Athena's laugh was bitter. The Drachnids believe in peace through absolute control. They've spent millennia building their empire, conquering or absorbing any civilization they encounter. But some systems remain out of their reach, protected by powerful defense fleets or natural barriers. She gestured to the crystal. With my research, they could simply switch off those systems' suns. Ultimate power through the threat of extinction. Charming folks, Nathan muttered. And the other ones after us? The Quantum Consortium? Worse, in their way. They're pure capitalism taken to its logical extreme. They'd sell the technology to the highest bidder, consequences be damned. She shuddered. The galaxy would descend into chaos. Star systems held hostage, cosmic terrorism, entire civilizations wiped out in power plays. So basically space capitalism meets space fascism. Great. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. What's our next move? Before Athena could answer, a low rumble shook the station. Warning lights flashed as ancient sensors detected approaching vessels. Impossible, Athena breathed, rushing to a viewport. They couldn't have tracked us through a collapsed wormhole. Unless what? Nathan joined her at the window, watching 3 ships emerge from behind a massive asteroid. They were larger than the bounty hunter's vessel, their hulls gleaming with predatory intent. Unless they had help. Athena's voice was cold. Someone must have planted a quantum tracker on me. Someone who knew my movements, my habits. Someone I trusted. Nathan's blood ran cold as realization struck. Your contact on Earth. The one who helped you find a hiding place. Daniel Reed. Athena spat the name like a curse. I thought he was different. He seemed to understand the importance of keeping my research safe. Her laugh was hollow. I should have known better. Everyone has a price. Not everyone, Nathan said quietly, taking her hand. The energy that constantly hummed beneath her skin seemed to resonate with his touch. Athena looked at him, really looked at him, as if seeing him clearly for the first time. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered across her face. Then the station shook again as the approaching ships opened fire. They're trying to breach the hull, Athena said, pulling away reluctantly. We need to move. There's an emergency shuttle bay 2 levels down. If we can reach it. What about the research? Nathan patted his pocket where the crystal lay. We can't let them get it. No, Athena agreed, her expression hardening. We can't. But we might be able to use it. She grabbed her emergency kit, pulling out what looked like a small tablet. I have an idea. A way to make sure no one can ever weaponize my discovery. Why do I feel like I'm not going to like this plan? Because you're smarter than you look, Athena said with a grim smile. We're going to broadcast my research to every scientific institution in the galaxy. All of it. The full data, the theoretical framework, everything. Nathan blinked. Won't that just give everyone the power to destroy stars? No. Because we're also going to broadcast the countermeasures. The defenses I developed against stellar manipulation. If everyone has both the weapon and the shield. She trailed off meaningfully. Mutually assured destruction, Nathan finished. No one can use it without risking retaliation. Exactly. Not ideal, but better than letting any one group have a monopoly on the technology. She began connecting her tablet to the station's ancient communication array. The station's quantum transmitter should have enough power for a galaxy-wide broadcast. But another impact rocked the station. Warning klaxons blared as the hull integrity dropped. But what? Nathan prompted, steadying himself against a console. But someone will need to stay behind to maintain the broadcast. To make sure it completes. Athena's eyes met his, full of determination and something else. Something that made his heart skip. Nathan, He cut her off by pulling her into a kiss. For a moment, the approaching ships, the deadly research, the fate of countless stars, all of it faded away. There was only this, the electric feel of her skin, the impossible warmth of her lips, the way the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. When they finally broke apart, Athena looked slightly dazed. That was probably a terrible idea, Nathan finished, grinning. But I've been wanting to do that since you reassembled my toaster. Another explosion rocked the station. This one closer. Much closer. Go, Nathan said, pushing her toward the shuttle bay. I'll handle the broadcast. Don't be ridiculous, Athena snapped. You don't even know how to operate quantum technology. I'm a quick learner, remember? Besides, he pulled the crystal from his pocket, I've got the data right here. And you're the only one who can make sure it gets to the right people once it's out there. Nathan. Her voice cracked slightly. I can't ask you to dash. You're not asking. I'm offering. He squeezed her hand. Now go save the galaxy, you impossible woman. I'll be right behind you. They both knew it was a lie. But sometimes lies are kinder than truth. Athena kissed him once more, fierce and desperate, then turned and ran toward the shuttle bay. Nathan watched her go, then turned to the communication array. Outside, the enemy ships were moving into position for a final assault. All right, he muttered, inserting the crystal into the station's interface. Let's see if I can figure out how to send a group text to the entire galaxy. The station's ancient systems groaned to life as Nathan initiated the broadcast sequence. His fingers flew across the interface, years of coding experience helping him decipher the alien technology's logic. It wasn't so different from debugging complex software, if you ignored the fact that failure meant death and potentially galactic devastation. Hull breach detected in Section 7, the station's AI announced calmly. Atmospheric containment at 64% and falling. Thanks for the update, Nathan muttered, diving deeper into the transmission protocols. Any other good news? 3 hostile vessels preparing to dock. Estimated time to forced entry, 4 minutes. Perfect. He glanced at the progress bar showing the broadcast status. 12% complete. Not nearly fast enough. The station shuddered as magnetic grapples latched onto the hull. Nathan could hear the screech of cutting tools beginning to slice through the station's outer layers. He worked faster, rerouting power from non-essential systems to boost the transmission speed. A familiar voice crackled through the station's comm system. "Mr. Brooks." The voice was smooth, cultured, and entirely too human. "This is Daniel Reed. I believe we should talk." Nathan ignored him, focusing on the broadcast. 27% complete. "The situation you're in is quite hopeless, you know," Reed continued. "But it doesn't have to end badly for you. The Drachnid Empire rewards those who cooperate. Help us secure Athena's research, and you could live like a king on any world you choose." "Thanks for the offer," Nathan called back, "but I've seen your employer's Yelp reviews. 1 star. Would not recommend." A harsh laugh. "You think this is a joke? You're about to die for someone who isn't even human. For research you can't possibly understand." "Maybe." Nathan watched the progress tick up to 35%. "But I understand enough. Like how someone who'd sell out their own species for profit probably shouldn't lecture others about humanity." The cutting sounds grew louder. 43%. "Last chance, Mr. Brooks. The Empire isn't known for its mercy to aliens or their sympathizers." Nathan's hands stilled over the controls for a moment. "You know what I don't get, Reed? You had the perfect cover. Respected scientist, trusted colleague. Why blow it all for this?" "Because I saw the future," Reed's voice hardened. "Humanity fumbling around with primitive rockets while vast empires span the stars. We're ants to them, Mr. Brooks. But with this technology, Earth could finally claim its place in the galaxy. We could be gods." "Funny," Nathan said, watching the progress hit 56%. "All I'm hearing is that you're scared. Scared of being small, scared of being insignificant. Must be exhausting." A thunderous crash echoed through the station as the first boarding team broke through. Heavy footsteps approached from multiple directions. "Initiate emergency protocols," Nathan commanded the station's AI. "Seal all bulkheads between my position and the breach points." Complying. "Warning, oxygen reserves at 47% and declining." Nathan checked the broadcast status. 71%. "Not enough." "Not yet." The first blast door dented inward as something massive slammed against it. Through the viewport, Nathan caught a glimpse of Athena's shuttle, still docked but preparing for launch. He hit the station's comm switch. "Athena? If you can hear me, you need to go. Now." Her voice came back instantly, tight with emotion. "Not without you. Pretty sure we both know that's not an option anymore." He managed a smile, even though she couldn't see it. "But hey, at least I can put 'Save the Galaxy' on my resume. Assuming anyone on Earth would believe it." "Nathan." She paused. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "I know. But I'm glad it did." The blast door groaned as another impact struck it. "Even the parts where you almost blew up my toaster." A wet laugh. "That was a successful upgrade and you know it." The broadcast reached 84%. The blast door began to glow red as cutting torches worked on its seams. "Athena?" Nathan's voice softened. "Thank you." "For what?" "For showing me that the universe is bigger and stranger and more wonderful than I ever imagined. For trusting me. For making my ordinary life extraordinary." A moment of silence, broken only by the sound of failing metal and warning alarms. "The Galactic Science Council," she said finally. "They meet on Proxima Station. Once the broadcast is complete, I'll make sure they implement the defensive measures across every star system. No one will be able to use this research as a weapon." "Good. The blast door's edges began to melt. 92% complete. Oh, and Athena? Maybe check back on Earth sometime. Say hi to my toaster. He could hear the smile in her voice, even through the tears. I promise. The shuttle's engines fired up as the broadcast hit 97%. Through the viewport, Nathan watched it detach from the station, carrying Athena and hope for the galaxy's future to safety. The blast door finally gave way as the broadcast reached 100%. Armed figures poured into the room, some human, some decidedly not. Daniel Reed strode in behind them, his expression triumphant. It's over, Mr. Brooks. Where's the research? Nathan smiled, holding up the now empty crystal. Everywhere. The station's speakers crackled to life, broadcasting on all frequencies, transmission complete. Data packets received and verified by 47,283 scientific institutions across known space. Reed's face contorted with rage. Kill him. Sorry, Nathan said, pressing one final button. Got other plans. The station's remaining power surged into its quantum core, creating a localized temporal distortion. As spacetime began to fold in on itself, Nathan caught one last glimpse of the stars through the viewport. They seemed to wink at him, as if sharing one final cosmic joke. 6 months later, on Earth, a young boy's science project was interrupted by an impossible phenomenon. His toaster, a perfectly ordinary appliance, suddenly began producing toast exactly 2.3 seconds before the bread was inserted. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a woman with violet eyes smiled, remembering a promise kept.